Thanks for being here today. Really appreciate you showing up. Today is the third part of our series on monitors, and today we're going to discuss MEs versus IP controllers or iPads. I get a lot of questions all the time. What's the right thing to use? How should we be doing this? How do we best go about completing our personal monitor control? For the last couple series, we talked about the trials of being a monitors engineer. Something that I enjoy. I think it's something that you could enjoy, but sometimes it just makes more sense to excuse me, have the artists do the monitors themselves because you're doing front of house at the same time, or because you have equipment limitations or time limitations or whatnot. So sometimes it just makes sense to let them do it themselves. So what are all these things? Okay, we've got our Me1s and Me500s, our Ip6s, Ip8s, and then we've got a couple of iPad apps. So we've got a lot of options for how to give a musician control over their own monitors. The first three, the Me1s, Ip6s, and Ip8s, are obviously hardware, dedicated hardware based, and then the iPads will be using an iPad with our free apps. So let's look at each one of these and see what we've got going on here. The first one, the Me1, this is a really great unit. The thing that distinguishes this over all of the other ones is that the Me system, whether it's a Me1 or a Me500, it's its own mixer. The summing is done on board. Okay, that's a major difference. We're sending audio from the mixer as stems, basically, or individual channels. They might be groups, they might be reverb returns. You can send whatever you want over there, but we're going to send up to 40 sources over the Me network, and all of the summing or mixing, if you like, is going to be done in the unit itself. It receives audio and channel names over Ethernet from whatever console you're using. Me is a 40-channel protocol, so we can send 40 sources from the desk. And then the Me1 can actually do 42 discrete sources because it has an additional line input and a local microphone, which is really nice. So you can have some ambience in your mix if you want, or if you need to have a conversation with someone, you can turn that up, and then when the conversation's over, you can spin that back down again without having to constantly take your headphones or in-ears on and off. The Me500 can mix 16 discrete sources, but either way, it's receiving audio over the internet, or not over the internet, excuse me, over the Ethernet, and those sources are going to be mixed on the unit itself. The other thing that's really different about this versus the other options is that it has a headphone and line out built into it. So you're going to plug directly into this unit, and you're going to monitor and listen directly from headphones right off of the Me without needing a built
David, it's Willie. Hold on a second here.
I don't know who David is, but you're interrupting me. Thanks, Willie. You're going to plug your headphones directly into the unit and monitor from there. You've got a local volume, so it has a headphone amp built in. You can also run it out to a wedge, a powered wedge, or out to an amplifier to be feeding a wedge. So it's basically a contained unit all in one. The Me system can be used with any Allen Heath digital mixer, so Q, SQ, Avantis, D-Live, or it can be used with a third-party mixer with a Me-U over Dante, Waves, or Madi. So you can use it with another system. You will not get the channel naming automatically, but everything else works the same. This is the choice that I like to see for musicians that don't move. So if you've got drummers, keyboard players, people that are, their instrument is too big to take around the stage with them, this is a really good choice because it's very simple, it's robust hardware, and they can plug right into it. They don't have to have an additional device. Okay, the next choices here that we're looking at, Ip6s and Ip8s. They do the exact same thing, it's just a little bit different form factor. I'll show you the Ip8 in a minute. This one is the Ip6. It has 6 dual stage rotaries, so there's a turn function and a push and turn function. There are 6 OLED scribble strips and then 18 soft buttons that can be programmed. Both of these IP controllers can have multiple layers. So even though we only have 6 encoders at any given time, we can have up to 6 layers, giving us 36 strips on this unit at any time. And those strips can be master volumes, they could be individual channel volumes, they could be group volumes, reverb, return volumes, anything you want along with panning. But the big thing to remember about these is that they are not a mixer. There is no audio processed on board an IP controller whatsoever, okay? This is a TCP/IP remote control that basically is an extension of the control surface of whatever Allen Heath mixer you're using it with. So it's sending TCP/IP network control packet messages back and forth, but no audio is coming or going from this unit. That's the big difference between this and a Mi controller. The Ip6 that we're looking at is actually in the exact same chassis as the Mi 1 and Mi 500. It just has different internals, obviously, but same all steel, very rugged chassis with the mic stand mount on the bottom and all those kinds of things that people have grown to love about the Mi's. So this unit, as I said, will allow control of any main level of any bus or any channel. You can do send levels to specific mixes.
Anybody else lose audio?
Yeah.
Yeah, audio's out, Mangs. Audio's out.
Yes.
Yep.
Toot toot, can you guys hear me now?
We got you, Bangs. Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that.
Good to have you back, brother. Good to have you back.
Hey, good to be back. Sorry, my belt pack decided it didn't want to work anymore. Okay, I won't call out what brand it is. Certainly not Allen Heath. Okay, yeah, back at it. So where I lost you, I think I was talking about you can use this to control main level or send level of any input or any bus. You can also use the soft buttons for mutes, PFLs. You can do panning. There are a couple dozen functions actually that you can put on these encoders and buttons. So there's a lot of functionality here. One thing that I really like is that you can actually use one controller for several people's mixes if you want to. So a common application is to have one of these sitting in the mid-stage center. If you've got 6 singers, for example, they could walk up, push a button with their name on it. I actually will use clear P-Touch with black ink and put them on the buttons themselves, and so that whatever you label the buttons will glow through the name. It actually works really well. But you could go up and press your name and then work on your mix, and the next person can come up and do the same thing. So these are very useful in a lot of applications, but they're great for personal monitors. The one thing, as I said, there's no audio coming or going from this thing, so there's no local audio in or out, so you can't plug headphones into it. So you would need a wired or wireless belt pack. But as it says there, all audio stays with the mixer, which to me is a absolute plus if you are doing wireless in-ears or other type of monitoring sources, because instead of sending the audio out to the unit and then having to bring it back to the mixer again, not only does it take time, but it does make your signal vulnerable, as if something were to happen to that cable, you not only lose control, you lose your audio. But in this, I'm not sending my audio out and back again, so I get to stay within my sub-millisecond latency of our mixers, and I haven't put it at risk by sending it out over a cable. So it's going to come straight out of the mixer as it would have. I'm just giving a satellite control over the mix. So to me, that's a big win. And that's why this is the best choice for using with wireless in-ears, or even if you've got wired belt packs or headphone amps or things like that. This is a really great choice. Okay. The IP8, as I mentioned, here's a look at that. This is same functionality generally, except this has got moving faders. So it's got 8 OLED scribble strips, 24 soft keys, and then 8 moving faders on 6 layers. So you've got 48 strips on this one. And I actually do use 5 of these on the George Strait band for some of the guys on stage that I can't see very well, and they absolutely love them. And most of them are actually using them with wedges. I've got about, a 60-40 wedge to ear situation with those, but they really love them. And the cool thing is that for the people on wedges, I can actually set the upper limits on these faders so that they can't push anything into feedback. So I have ultimate control. And that's another thing that I really love about the IP controllers versus a Me or an iPad when you're doing personal monitoring, is that you can give them control without relinquishing control. So whoever's on the mixer still can take over the device. I can also change programming on the device. So as from song to song, I can recall presets for them on their mix, and they still have control over it, but I can change things from song to song or from different parts of the service or performance automatically as I make changes on the master mixer. So to me, this is the ultimate device for personal monitoring. Although, like I said, it's not may not work may not be the best choice for some other people's applications, and that's why we're looking at all these. So the last category we have here is to use an iPad, and this is very popular. A lot of people already have iPads. They're using them for sheet music and for notes and things like that. So they already have an iPad sitting in front of them. Most people are comfortable with the interface, so it's a good choice for a lot of applications. We've got 3 iPad apps for DLive. And the first one, Mixpad, I didn't put it on here because it's not about personal monitoring. It's for engineers to control the mixer. Could you give it to someone to do their own mix? Absolutely. But you would be risking them stepping on you because they do have control over almost everything in the system. So the more normal or more sensible choice for personal monitoring for iPads is our OneMix app. All these apps are free. But OneMix allows the operator or administrator, as we call it, to set up the app so that they have only control over sends to their bus and their bus master volume. You can give them EQ, gate, and compression control. I personally don't recommend it, but you certainly can do that if you like, but you also can block it off. So if you're seeing EQ there, don't let that freak you out. You can disable that if you wish. But with this, you can give them every channel on the console, or you can give them just a few things to control along with their master volume on the iPad. So it's very useful. They are free. They're cost effective if you already have the device running on the stage. Again, there's no local audio in or out. So even though there is a headphone jack in the iPad, I get this question a lot. Can I just plug my headphones into the iPad? No, it doesn't work. We're not actually sending audio to the device, and we wouldn't do that because the latency would be horrendous. You would be getting your monitoring probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 7 milliseconds after the actual signal. So you would hit a snare drum, and then it'd be like trying to listen to your mix inside of a big cave. So not ideal. Because of the speed of the DAC and in the iPad and the Wi-Fi network and all of those things. So OneMix works with DLive. It's coming soon for Avantis. And this is, again, a great choice for anytime someone is not tethered and wants to move around, but it can be totally fine for someone that is tethered if you're going to add a belt pack, either wired or wireless. My one gripe with the iPads, and I always try and point this out to musicians, the tactile interface of an iPad is very difficult to manipulate while you're playing an instrument. So for most people, this is problematic. I mean, if you imagine trying to play drums and reach over and touch an iPad so delicately, you could try and turn something up a little bit and you could crush yourself with, you know, a 6 dB increase in volume. So that's my only caution. I feel like, I feel very strongly that if you're going to use the iPad situation, you need to have two hands free where you can stabilize the device and stabilize your second hand. It's very touchy because of, you know, the touchscreen and its nature as a consumer device. And so generally I prefer dedicated hardware when possible for most applications. But if you want to use an iPad, these iPad apps are excellent. The other choice for personal monitoring besides OneMix is our custom control app. And a lot of you probably aren't even aware that this thing exists. And to be honest, when they first launched this, I didn't really see the potential that I do now. This app was launched with installation in mind so that you could have a Crestron type or AMX or Extron type interface on a consumer device. So with your phone or with any kind of Android or iOS tablet, you could have control over, you know, running a meeting or something like that. But as I looked at this app more and more, it just gets cooler and cooler to me. I mean, the things that we have been able to do with this app are just astronomical. So definitely check out Custom Control if you're not familiar with it. It is a free download from our website. For the build app, Custom Control Editor allows you to build a custom interface with, you know, your clients or your artwork, and you know, you can really customize anything about the graphical layout. You can see on the screen there one that I built just as an example for doing personal monitoring. So we've got a collection of channels on custom faders. I've labeled it, this is the background 3 singers monitor mix. I've got the church logo, there's a master volume. I mean, these are all just arbitrary, you know, kind of example things that I put in there. But I think you get the idea. So this is really cool because you have the ability to make it not only look really slick, but also customize it to the person that's using it. So if, you know, OneMix is a pretty simple app to get around, but for someone that is just a singer and doesn't have any real concept of audio, it could be a little daunting to see all of the, you know, to see the EQ and all those kinds of things. So this allows you to make a very clean and simple and also visually attractive control interface for anybody. I like to call these non-skilled user interfaces where they're intended to be operated by someone that is not an audio engineer, and I think they're really great. So this is one example here. Here's a bigger view of it. If it will pop up. Did I freeze? There we go. So there's a larger view. So that's a collection of labeled faders with a master volume. I've got the logo on there. The one below it is one that I built by request a week or two ago. And this was for a musical director that didn't need to do their own monitor control because they had a dedicated monitor engineer, but he wanted to be able to walk the stage and walk the sanctuary and be able to queue up any instrument or any mix on the stage. So basically, he wanted to be able to listen into his musicians' instruments. He wanted to be able to listen to their mixes. He wanted to be able to listen to the main house mix of the sanctuary and check in on the engineer and see how they were doing. And I just thought this was a really cool application for this app. And so that lower one is just a collection of PFL buttons. And those PFL buttons feed a discrete PFL that goes just to the musical director's ear mix. So it does not disrupt or have any effect on what's going on the main console. So it's a really cool application, and literally the limits of what you can do with custom control are only to your imagination. There are so many cool things that you can do with this. Custom control works with DLive and Avantis and our AHM64. So you can try it out with any of those systems. Here's 2 more examples of things that you can do with this. This upper one is what, kind of the original intention of the app, where you could have this on a little tablet sitting on a wall or on the desk for a school or an office building, and you could have a couple of different scenarios where you're listening to Spotify, or you've got a little handheld wireless microphone, or some sort of live event, and then you can control the volume of that source in a couple of different rooms, say for a restaurant or a bar or a hotel or something like that. So those are cool applications. You can certainly do that. And then the lower one is just to show how ridiculous or fun you can get with the graphics on this. On that, the actual faders are people's faces. So I went around with my iPhone, I shot pictures of people's faces in the room, and then I made them the fader caps. So essentially, if you want someone louder, then you just touch their head and you slide their head up and down. And then the lower ones are actually rotary encoders, where you can spin their head around and it changes the volume. So you can literally go wild with these things. And not one of these took me more than 10 minutes to build. So it's very quick and easy. And nobody trained me, and I am not a graphic designer. I could not pull this off on another system. I've messed around with Crestron, and it's way over my head. But I just downloaded the free custom control editor app, and it just works like the old Microsoft Paint kind of thing, where you just drag and drop. So it's really great. So the question was, of these 3 different categories of devices, what do we use? Just to summarize, I definitely prefer, as I said, to have dedicated hardware for the musicians. You don't have to worry about them forgetting it. You don't have to worry about them forgetting to charge it. You don't have to worry about them dropping it and breaking it. The dedicated hardware is all very robust. It's purpose-built. But the main thing with having dedicated hardware is that it's very easy to grab on the fly in an intense situation. Whether you're a drummer or a keyboard player or a guitar player, I've seen them all reach out with one hand and grab something really quick and get right back to their instrument. You're not going to be able to do that effectively on an iPad. So that's why I like to see dedicated hardware, for all of those reasons. But the choice between the MEs and the IP1s, or excuse me, IP6s and IP8s, I like to just simplify it into 2 categories. If they're not going to move, then drummer, keyboard player, go with an ME. If they are on wireless or other type of remote bell pack, then put them on IP controllers. So that's just a simple rule of thumb that I like to follow. And then obviously the iPad apps are a great option if you are already using iPads, or if it's what your musicians prefer, or if you don't have budget or capability to have dedicated hardware. All right, so hopefully that cleared up some questions about this the devices for personal monitoring. If there's any questions, I would love to answer them for you now. You can type in the chat, or you can turn on your mic. Anyone have any questions?
I certainly do. I never got the answer to this on the last session. Okay. What is the MSRP on an IP6 and 8?
That's a really good question.
You can't even find a price online. I've gone to Sweetwater, I've gone to other places. It says call. So when you see the word call, that's scary. That means way too much.
Nah, they're very approachable. Sorry, give me 1 second, and I will pull up the prices on that. So. Okay, IP6 MSRP is $799, and IP8 MSRP is $1299. And we don't have map pricing on either one of those devices. Most of the DLive stuff does not have map, and that's why it says call, because they're actually not allowed to post pricing for them.
Yeah, the map's supposed to have disappeared about 4 years ago at the NAMM show. They said that the government went after them for price fixing. So no one's supposed to be using map pricing. You're not supposed to tell people what the minimal advertised selling price is supposed to be, but that's another thing. So
Gotcha.
Yeah. Hey, Banks.
Yes.
Banks, does the IP6 and IP8 work with the Ventus? No.
Yes, it does.
Okay, then that might be something we might revisit that price. All of the type products, because D-Live product, if you buy an S7000, it doesn't work by itself. And so if you advertise an S7000 for $24,000 or whatever the or MSRP, whatever you want to call it, if you advertise it for that, somebody were to purchase one, it wouldn't do them any good if they didn't have a mix engine. So that for the reason that a D-Live system typically requires that you get some system integration, you kind of figure out what service. There's 7 different services, 7 different mix engines, all different kinds of ways to configure it, all different kind of I/O cards, and it really does require that most people that purchase this stuff kind of talk to a salesperson, says, well, that card doesn't work with this, but that mix engine would be good with that. What is it you need to do? So the reason there's no minimum advertised price is that it really does require somebody to kind of help you configure a system. And you're welcome to shop with 5 different dealers if you want, but we just found out in the early days it created confusion when somebody would advertise something that all by itself doesn't do any good. So we just have done that. But the accessories that do work with other products like Advantis or Q or SQ, we have tended to put a minimum advertised price out there. And minimum advertised price has nothing to do with what price you can sell it for. It's just what price can be advertised. So dealers can sell things for anything they want to do, but minimum advertised price is still adhered to in the United States as just that, as an advertised price. But again, dealers can sell things for anything they want to sell them for. They just can't advertise them for stuff. But since the IP6 and IP8 do work with the other models, we may revisit and actually publish those particular prices. The intention was D-Live system exclusive products would be the things that you need some help to configure with.
Thank you, Tim. Yeah, that's important. If you are looking at purchasing a D-Live system, please do call. Even if you think you know what you want, give someone a call that does this for a living, because it's not like any other mixer where you just kind of pick one off the shelf and you have to hope it works for you. Basically, every D-Live system is catered around the application and the purchaser and end users, and that's one of the greatest things about the system. So, thanks. Any other questions?
Hey, Banks.
Yes.
Kevin Madden on the Eastern Regional for Allen and Heath. Hello.
Hi, Kevin.
I wanted to mention a couple of interesting sort of peripheral applications that I've discovered people using MEs for. I had an integrator, and now a few of them are doing this. They actually will hang the ME off of any of our consoles and wall mount it in, for example, in a church environment, in a youth room, and use it as a little distribution mixer feeding ceiling speakers. The ME1 does have, as Mike said earlier, a line out. It's a mono line out, and it defeats the local microphone. So that's a way for them to pick and choose sources and just mix stuff in a peripheral room. All the way on the other extreme, we have a very well-known sound company, to remain nameless, based in Wisconsin with offices in Arizona, who will use an MEU, which is the big 10-port PoE distribution hub with a Dante card, and they will put it in their wireless racks to just do RF audio queuing and check out the RF signal. So there are a lot of creative ways you can use these things.
Absolutely. I actually use IP8 for that same purpose, for doing discrete PFL of a wireless rack of stuff. So there are, a lot of applications. And as you said, the Me1 is great for, it is a mixer, as I said, it's its own mixer. So anywhere that you need a mixer, you could use a Me1 instead of a more, air quotes, traditional mixer, because it is a Me1 is a 40 channel mixer. And it's a very compact and great sounding mixer with line out and headphone amp on board. So thanks, Kevin. Anyone else have any other questions?
I think the ultimate for me would be if we had the custom app program. If somebody, maybe you'll know this, does anybody have a physical virtual encoder knob that you can buy that plugs into your iPad or Android tablet. Because to me, what I would see is giving the musicians the ability to mix their own mix. But you are absolutely right. When they go with one hand on the guitar and the other hand trying to adjust something on the iPad, it's hairy. But if I designed a panel that they touch the item that they want to adjust, but touching it doesn't change anything. It only turns it on. And now the encoder adjusts that, just like on all your mixers, where you have the ability to touch on something and turn the main encoder knob. If we can do that, for me, I mean, it's a lot more cost effective than a bunch of Mi's or IP6s or whatever.
I've never seen a tactile control add-on for iOS, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. But I certainly never seen one. But I can tell you that custom control at this time does not support such a device, but it's certainly possible. If you were to find such a device, please let me know, and we'd be happy to take a look at it, because it's an interesting concept for sure.
I am a software developer, and so maybe that's maybe there's some room for programming there. I'll take a look at that. And by the way, Kevin, great video.
Hello.
I love your videos on your Heath products, by the way.
Who is this? Your ID just says web.
William Edward Balestrini. I gotta change that. My name is William Edward Balestrini, which happens to be web. So that's
cool. All right, thank you.
Thank you,
Hey, Bangs,
William.
this is kind of fringe, but what he was just talking about almost harkens to the system you and that fella in Europe put together with a pair of Ip8s, and a giant touchscreen computer running DLive Director. You remember that?
No, I don't.
Yeah, you took two Ip8s with
Yes.
DLive Director in an SKB trunk.
Oh, yes, my little fly rig. Yes, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I was actually using that as an engineer's control surface. So yeah, I mean, the IP controllers, the applications for IP controllers go well beyond what we're discussing here today. But the topic of today was personal monitoring and the different devices that you can use to accomplish personal monitoring. So I tried not to get too out there, but yeah.
Another topic.
I could go on for weeks about all of the different applications for IP controllers, because they're literally limitless. But any other questions? No? Okay. Well, thanks so much.